The following game has no ESRB rating, nor is there any sort of listing for restrictive content found within the game. From what I've seen so far, it does contain space combat, explosions, ships on fire, and what the game considers strong language, although I don't believe that language is considered cursing in modern day civilization terms, but it's still there, and the meaning, I believe, is readily visible, if not overtly listed as such. That being said, if I were to guess as to what its rating would have been, I would say it would most likely have been rated T for teen by the ESRB. So, given that assumption, and again, it is assumption, so of course, viewer discretion is advised, I recommend anyone under the age of 13 not watch the following video. You have been warned.
Greetings and salutations, I am Outlier and I bid you welcome to this channel. Joining me today is of course my usual co-hosts, Snowball and Wolf. And today we're returning back to Starhammer the Vanguard Prophecy. So the premise of Starhammer the Vanguard Prophecy is that you are a naval strike group commander, commanding a small flotilla of space-based naval warships, protecting your homeworld from threats both... there's basically two different enemies that you can fight. One is a bunch of human raiders who, I guess for one reason or another, turned to piracy on the open skies to, for a variety of reasons. Basically, they're running around attacking your navy's warships and taking them out and raiding for supplies and just being a general nuisance that the local law enforcement agencies just can't seem to handle. So I believe you get called in and basically deal with them. Well, I'll get to that. And the other enemy is an alien, organism or species known as the nautilid. You don't actually see pictures of any of them, but they're referred to as squids, so I'm assuming that they are squids, isopods, I don't remember. But anyway, they're basically squid-like. And they are attacking your people for reasons known only to them, because there's apparently no diplomacy between the two species, and one side just attacks the other for reasons not shared to the other side. And our people have fought the Nautilids before in what's known as the First Contact War. Apparently it was either a stalemate or our side won. Basically the Nautilids up and disappeared for 20, 30 some odd years. I don't exactly remember the time frame between that war and now. But basically they've returned and they've started blowing things up again. When I said I believe that's how you deal with the raiders before, what I meant by that is that there is a branching storyline to this game. So you can choose one option or the other, and then the game changes based upon your decisions. And while I could have gone off and investigating the pirates and other rogue factions and learn about their origins and fight them more often, I opted to fight the Nautilid almost exclusively. And the last couple of missions that I've played have basically been them threatening, apparently, the one and only shipyard our people have, and us protecting the shipyard from the Nautilids, because apparently, even though it's the one and only shipyard, it's woefully undefended. I mean, like, ridiculously so. As in, if we weren't there, it would have gotten torched a long time ago. But we were there, and for those who haven't seen the past couple episodes, we defended both the port and starboard sides against the various Nautilid pods, as they're called. Well, as their fleets are called, I should say, from attacking the shipyard. And then we went off to figure out where the Nautilins were coming from and to basically deny them access to that route, so that way they wouldn't assault the shipyard. But some of them apparently still got through, and some of them still threatened the shipyard, so we had to hightail it back, and we managed to defend the shipyard a third time. Yes, there were, but they were busy taking out another group of Nautilid. And that brings us up through the end of last episode, and this game is split up into various chapters, and I believe we just completed a chapter. At the very least, that's what it kind of felt like, and it kind of just stopped it right there. I haven't really played any between episodes, so right where I left it off at is what we're going to be picking it up at, so I forget exactly what we were doing. I think we were going on more an offensive role this time around as opposed to defensive. I don't recall if we're still fighting the Nautilid or if we've gone back to hunting pirates again, but apparently we ended up with a battlecruiser, so that's always fun. And with all of that out of the way, all that's left to say is that this game is, of course, made by thank you again. And that being said, let us begin. Okay, good. I have to admit, when I was looking at the load screen, which I just edited out of the video, it said that it was still the shipyard chapter, so I had assumed that I hadn't saved it at the end of the last episode. But apparently I did, and we arguably have two options. I say arguably because one of them, the underside, I can't really click on, but it requires a war scale of aggressive 1. And war scale is this balance between offensive and defensive that the various missions and actions and choices that you make in the game affect, I guess, the bonuses that you can get for your strike group, as well as various dialogue options and how your character and those working under and around them react to various scenarios. And because of how I played and the missions I chose, our war scale is actually at a defensive of 8 right now. Whereas the underside requires requires a war skill of offensive or aggressive, I should say, of 1. So we don't meet the qualifications to do that. Also, we do have various crew. Although apparently can only assign 3 at a time, and I now have 4. So Morrissey 3 doesn't get a roster slot, which is weird. Okay. Okay, so I can remove the comms officer and put in the pilot. I actually get better engine speed, although she only has one category, being either playful or sarcastic, which either increases the flagship movement speed or the flagship turning speed. Well, turning radius. You know, that decreases the turning radius. Why do I want to make the ship turn slower? Although, she can be either mildly friendly with the captain or mildly friendly with the gunnery officer. Or she can just be straight up hostile to the comms officer. I like having my crew be, well, somewhat friendly to people, so, well, with each other. but we do get a slight better bonus with speed. So I'm going to leave the pilot in place of the comms officer because he apparently doesn't get, while the lines do say that he would be moderately friendly with everybody, he kind of gets on, well, my nerves specifically, as well as the nerves of the gunnery officer. And since we're a warship, I think it's better if we have a guy that shoots better than a guy who just simply mans the radios. And it seems like, well, I'm not quite certain what minus flagship turning circle means, or negative 10% flagship turning circle. Something tells me that's not a benefit, or I just assume that because of the negative. So I'll leave her at an aggressive stance, which makes her playful, makes her more friendly with Haven Jinx, the gunnery officer, than it does with our captain. But yeah, I'm fine with that. So, alright, so Valorant says we don't need, that's our character, says we don't need the help, but I appreciate you coming aboard with us. And then Marcy says, children generally don't realize that they need a helping hand the most. This is going to take some getting used to, isn't it? For you, maybe. I've long since reconciled the fact that I was dating your daddy's drill sergeant before he started basic training. Okay, so I'm guessing she's more of the elderly generation. Whereas our character is not. Alright, so with the crew assignments out of the way, all that's left is mission choice. And since, as I said, the underside requires an award scale that we just don't meet the criteria of, so we go with a matter of acquisition. So a matter of acquisition. Yesterday, Haven accused me of falling up the ladder. It seems Command is committed to proving her right. Him right? I thought Haven was a guy. Anyway, no sooner had we docked at DM2, we had fresh nav points from AK. He's the, basically he's our liaison between the guys who give the orders and us. So, basically the Admiral, he says, send Strike Group 7 to point A, B, and C. They give those orders to AK, and then AK relays them to us. In orders to relocate to the bridge of a recently refurbished Triton battlecruiser. I wish I were more excited about this. The ship itself is fine. It's a little banged up, but I have Marcy in one ear complaining about being behind the wheel of a heavy cruiser again so soon, and Ludo in the other making his very specific point of not recognizing my captaincy as a legitimate flotilla captain like his pa. And then there's the reason why Command is giving me this Hulk in the first place. While we've been busy cleaning up on the home front, someone in the Admiralty thought it might be a good idea to send some Rangers out to scout how many Nautilids are still left floating around out there. We still don't actually know because none of the Rangers have reported back since deploying 3 days ago. Command is now assuming the worst and needs someone, that is me, to go out and check if any of the Rangers have managed to leave any data in a drop box before being sunk. Go out, grab the data on the Nautilus, get back before whatever sunk the Rangers sinks us as well. What's there to be excited about again? So basically, the Admiralty sent out a bunch of scouts. They all went missing. And we have to figure out what happened, so let's proceed. Also, we get new reinforcements, a Triton battlecruiser. And it's our new flagship. Very big vessel. Right, so that wasn't actually the mission. I'm guessing that was just picking which campaign we wanted. So we can't go with the underside because, again, not high enough war scale. So my options are the Agrarian Futures, which has a mission description of defensive. The GSS Run, which has a mission description of neutral. Or Beyond the Settlement Line, which has a mission description of aggressive. Alright, so, I mean, I didn't really read the descriptions. I just basically looked at the name and what's exactly going to happen. So it looks like for the neutral and aggressive missions, we have to basically contact a satellite, one of which, well, for the neutral one, just basically has data we have to basically upload, whereas the other one we have to rescue someone by the name of Tyler Barrett. Whereas this one seems to be, no, I guess they all online. So let me just read this anyway. Beyond the settlement line. Beyond the line, some damn fool's distress has started flashing out from beyond the settlement line. I'm guessing that's the edge of colonized space. And of course, we're the only naval group anywhere close to approaching the operational distance. Command would dictate that we're under no obligation to SNR out beyond the line and insist on sending a civilian crew. Finnegan that. If our last tussle with the squids is an indicator of how things are escalating around here, we either go fish a distressed civvies out now, or have their blood on our hands. And when you're the one standing on the bridge for a naval-grade Triton battlecruiser, you don't really have a choice in the matter, and they rescue Tyler Barrett from the unlicensed GSS satellite, whereas the neutral one is the GSS run. The Ranger Dropbox should be out here somewhere. An inert satellite that Rangers on orbital patrol can leave reports and vid streams to be picked up by NavSec. Turns out no one is really sure why the satellites remain powered down. Marcy says it's a waste of energy for the Rangers to come closer within network range. Ludo counters that it's a waste of resources to have these rarely used satellites ping in and out of the NavSec network. Somewhere, someone is supposed to be saving some money, but no one knows who. Ideally, we'll find one of the Rangers out here 3 days late and grateful for the tow. If not, we have to check the Dropbox for any data left behind and return with it in one piece. I mean, why wouldn't we? Nothing different out here than what we've dealt with back in the deployment zone. Yeah, keep telling yourself that, Valorant. Reach the remote GSS satellite and retrieve any Ranger data left behind. Or the third one is a second distress beacon has popped up at a station 17 clicks from the nav point. AK has pegged it as the Archilian, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, orbital research facility, the third largest non-military orbital out here. There's not much accompanying data to say whether they require a personal or asset evacuation, and it looks like the signal has been on repeat for at least a day now. Being this far out from any other asset, they may not get another chance at help. On the other hand, as ministry, Arclean isn't exactly lacking in resources to help themselves. They could be fine out here, but as Haven said, it also wouldn't hurt us to take a short detour to check that everything is alright at the station, and assist with the evacuation of the Arclean research facility. So my options are to assist a bunch of researchers at a facility, basically multiple civilians, just basically call up a remote satellite and see what mail has been left behind, or to actually rescue one guy. And if we go with the ever-present theme of greatest good for the greatest number, then probably saving civilians is probably a better idea than just checking the mail. And saving a larger number of civilians is probably better than saving a few. Although, tell that to the few that need saving. Yeah, I'm sure they'll disagree. I mean, he could have data specific to how what the Nautilids are and what they're doing. Or the research station could be doing something research-wise, but they could also be doing something illegal. But my war scale is currently defensive, and it's probably a good idea to keep it as such, just simply because I don't want to work all the way to aggressive, especially if I can't get back to the campaign. But I digress. So let's go with the Archelian futures, because probably more people to save, and they probably need help faster. So let's proceed. Right, and then this is the fleet's selection screen, and I can basically, as normal for those who have seen any of the other episodes, call up reinforcements. I can get raiders, a new corvette, a new frigate, a light cruiser, or destroyer now. Basically everything but what matches the flagship. But again, I don't have enough resource points available because the cheapest vessel is a raider. It costs 110 reinforcement points, and I have 57. I swear, that number actually keeps decreasing. But I can get up to 5 extra ships now, so let's go with the destroyer, the frigate, the corvette, and as usual, my 2 raiders. So I have the Triton battlecruiser, which is now the flagship. Get that back on the line. And I always change the name. Always call it a baked good. Even though it needs a proud name, a grand name, a name that strikes fear into the hearts of their enemies. And then I just name it after some sort of baked good. Right, I'll just call it Brownie. If I can spell it. I think that's how you spell Brownie. Well, Cheesecake's usually reserved for the biggest and most powerful and best ship I think I can get. And if the load screen, which I probably edited out of the video, was any indication, there's actually something larger than the battlecruiser. So it's probably best not to call the battlecruiser that, or at the very least not until I know whether or not there actually is a better ship. And as usual, with how I set it up the last chapter, I had the flagship in the middle, the raiders, my essentially scout vessels, above and below it, and then at the time the frigate and corvette on either side. But now that I have access to 6 ships, I have the destroyer on one side and then the frigate and corvette on the other. Kind of balances everything out. I mean, the battlecruiser is a rather large vessel. So let's proceed on. So, Agricoline Futures. Alright, so saddle those freighters up, boys. We got a particular shortage of time to waste. That's what Marcy says. I didn't realize that, and then Haven replies with, I didn't realize the station had drifted so far out from Novus airspace. And then Ludo says, you're familiar with Arclean assets? And then Haven replies with, my family's 11th generation ministry. I think my mother's graduate acquisition took place out here. And then Valorant says, we've got 2 columbulamins full of seeds and crops that would be welcome planets. Oh, well, they've got 2, whatever that is, full of seeds and crops that would be welcome planetside. And Haven says, these crops aren't for cultivating, Commander. This is the control center for disease and prevention. The majority of these samples on those boats would wipe out entire yields if released planetside. Luna says, wait, what? Why are we out here salvaging diseased crops? Then Haven replies with, the research can't be left out here to be destroyed. It's decades of work, proactive defense for our entire farming industry. As assets, they're likely worth millions in stock points alone. Not to mention, who knows what would happen if those virus samples were to escape into the wild out here. So basically, they're a bio-research lab looking into... Oh, and then Valorant says, that sounds disgusting. And then Marcy says, and dangerous. And dangerous. Alright, fleet, new plan. Make sure those those freighters get out of here in one piece, but keep quarantine distance just in case. So basically, they're looking to biological research, essentially trying to find diseases and cures for diseases before the diseases become a problem. I mean, I guess it's important work, and, well, important work. Let's make certain that it stays theoretical, as in they don't actually, well, get loose. Right, I just remember how the camera works again. Alright, let's zoom out. So if we zoom out, we got what looks like 2 disruptors. 3 disruptors, I didn't see that one because of the background. At least 4 krill. And whatever is out here. So escort Oclean transports the evac nav point. So I'm guessing this is the evac nav point. For once, it's actually behind the enemy. So we have to go through the bad guys in order to actually, well, win the mission. And this seems oddly light for the Nautilids. Usually they come in full bore with at least a dozen krill and, well, multiple other things. So either there's something behind the freighters, which I'm not seeing, but probably will eventually, or more stuff shows up between here and now. I just realized I probably should not have had my fleet in such close formation. But that's a moot point. And so right now it's just, I'm assuming, 3 destroyers and 4 krill. It'll probably get far worse sooner rather than later. But for now, let's deal with what I can see. And movement in the gameplay is arguably turn-based. I mean, how it works is that you have your planning phase, which is what I'm currently in right now, and you move your ships around using these hollow nav grid thingies, and they can move within any point within this trapezoid. Let's turn on firing arms as well. And every vessel can only fire certain things certain ways, so the peanut bar, my old flagship, has a high energy laser coming out the fore of the vessel, and then heavy laser turrets to the port and starboard, but nothing to the aft. So if it wants to shoot things, it has to be to the sides or to the front. And since it's right next to this disruptor here, we're going to angle it slightly this way. Hopefully keep this disruptor in its starboard arc. In fact, what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to pull power from the engines to get shields above 41%, so that way they just straight up start to regenerate right off the bat. Of course, that changes its movement because it can no longer move as far. So just re-angle that there. For the Brownie, our battle cruiser, it looks like it has 50 missiles that can be used, which can also apparently target up to 6, fire at 6 up to a time. And it's filled with medium lasers, but it has medium lasers all over the place. Looks like 2 to the fore, to the aft, and then 2 to each side. So no matter where the enemy is positioned, it can shoot them, well, outside of in between firing arcs. It also has a whole pile of missiles, so I'm assuming it's designed more for long-range missile combat, with a ridiculously large amount of medium-sized guns to shoot everything with. But I'll have the Brownie also angled the same as the Peanut Bar has been doing. Well, will be doing, just so that way to keep, I guess, the same targets in the same spots. And then the Swordfish Raiders, my scout vessels, will just, for now, stay above and below the battlecruiser. Now, you know what? I'll leave the... I don't feel like removing the nav grid talo things anyway, again, so I'll just leave the power the way that they are. As for the frigate moves at the speed of ridiculously slow. I mean ridiculously slow. So what I'm going to do is, again, put shields up to 41%. And pull slightly from engines and weapons. But I'm going to, that would probably cause it to collide with the battlecruiser. We're just going to have it fly straight for now, and once the battlecruiser and destroyer are out of the way, I'll have it turn in more sharply. And then the Corvette, which can only fire to the fore and aft, will just peel off this way. It also has 12 missiles compared to the battlecruiser's 50, which are its special weapons, and the frigate has countermeasures as well. 20 of them. Now, I can expend every special weapon that my fleet has, or strike group has, I should say, this mission, but I don't get them back until the end of the chapter, so anything I use now, I won't have for the next mission, which can be, and each chapter can be 5 to 6 to 8 missions long, so. It's probably best to save the missiles until I absolutely positively need them, and I shouldn't need them against the disruptors and krill. Couldn't think what they are. And I'll swing the utility ships over this way. And it can't really affect their energy. Or, I mean, it can adjust their shields, but that's really about it. Right, and once I have all the ships positioned where I want them to go, I hit show battle, and everything plays out cinematic-like. Alright, and the fight has started, so this freighter has started to take some hits to its left side, so I'll have it turn slightly more this way to get the station in between it and the Nautilids. I'll have the other utility ship turn this way as well, You know, I'm going to readjust the frigate's power supply to basically shove everything it can into engines, and I'll try to get it and the corvettes between the frigates, the freighters, and then these vessels. And it looks like there's actually 3 krill here, and another 2 here. So I'll have the peanut bar. No, another 3 krill here. There's another one right there. Keep heading in this direction. Hopefully we'll use its laser to kill one of the krill, and then its starboard battery to keep firing on this disruptor. I'll have the battlecruiser peel off this way to basically hopefully target these krill or this disruptor, but I'll try to get it in range of this group here. But I'll have the swordfish, rather than keeping on top of and below the battlecruiser, swing in this way to assist the... There you are. Let's say, where's the other nav marker thing? As I was saying, to assist the destroyer. For some reason I couldn't think of what the peanut bar was. Alright, now we see what happens. Alright, so I don't think anybody died. At the very least, I may have lost... No, there's that crow. I was going to say, I may have lost the crow that was right here, but it's right there. It's injured, but still alive. So I'll have the freighters just keep going this way. The frigate and the corvette keep going this way. I'll have the battlecruiser swing back slightly this way to again try to keep get between the krill and this disruptor and the freighters, because I'm fairly certain I lose a freighter, I lose the mission. Now on this side, I'm going to have the destroyer angle this way. For some reason, it didn't use its laser on anybody. And I'll just have the swordfish keep, well, I would say keep flying forward, but come on, that's the disruptor. I'll actually try to angle them more this way, just to keep this disruptor over here within their sights. Plus, it looks like the krill are flying off in this direction anyway. Alright, so the disruptor's doing its disruption thing. I mean, one krill is now near death, the other 2 are not. I'll have the swordfish swing over this way, just to, again, try to keep these guys on their toes, whereas the destroyer, well, does its destroying thing, hopefully on this disruptor. I mean, I'm not seeing any of the enemy missile vessels right now, so I'm assuming I don't need to worry about countermeasures in this mission. Of the freighters swing over this way and put more power into the corvette's engines, just to hopefully help it get between the freighters and the nautilids. Of the pound cake shift this way, because it is getting in between the freighters and the nautilid, as well as the battle cruiser. I'll actually have it make a sharp turn over this way. No. Sharp turn over this way, because if I do a long turn, it'll probably actually fly into the frigate. And hopefully, as the disruptor, or at the very least the krill nearby it, try to chase after the frigates, it'll stay within the battlecruiser's starboard arc. Yeah, that sounds like almost a plan. Let's continue and see what happens. Alright, and there are more vessels. There's this disruptor over here, and what looks like a whole bunch more krill, and some guardians. Alright, so their missile units are now on the field. Alright. Right where I was trying to send the freighters. Okay, cool. Cool. Have the freighters take the long way around. Have the frigate go over here and actually deploy a countermeasure. Where's the countermeasure? Off to where the freighters are going to be. I'll have the corvette drop a plane because it's going to fly into the frigate if it doesn't. And have it swing wide this way. Will the battle cruiser do a well, move to here. And then the destroyer do a hard turn this way, or wide turn this way. It is losing its rear shields, though. So the three are just there. And then I'll have the swordfish swing back this way. If I can click on it. Yeah, I figured there'd be more, and there's actually four guardians and 1, 2, 3, 4, a dozen more, half a dozen more crow, as well as an extra disruptor. Right, it's a good thing I launched that countermeasure because 2 missiles almost hit this thing, and its left shields are actually failing. So if I pull from the front, I'll pull from everywhere just to get its left and right shield even, while keeping its rear largely up. Alright, because they're basically in the thick of it right now, I'm going to pull power from the engines just to get shields to a recharging speed for the Corvette, as well as readjust its left and right shielding to even out the shields. I'll bring the frigate up a level and move it this way to hopefully get the Guardians in its weapons range. And it's currently being disrupted, so I mean I can adjust everything. So I'll pull power from its engines, making it slow again, but it should now be able to recharge its shields and be more, well, combat ready, if that's what it means. So I'm going to have the battlecruiser just straight up and target the Guardians, specifically this Guardian. And it looks like there's actually more missile contrails this way. So launch another countermeasure to again cover the freighters. About here should be fine. Angle the freighters this way, so that way they're not flying into more Nautilid, and then have the peanut bar basically try to open up an exit route for the freighters. Have the swordfish do the same by having them just swing clean around. Yeah, that looks like almost a plan. Alright, well, I guessed wrong there. The missiles weren't aiming for the freighters, they were going after the Corvette. And the Corvette is now at half health, well, under half health, and its right shield is now gone. So let's basically pull from everywhere just to recharge the right shield. I don't know if I can... No, you can't repair the Corvette. So I have to be more careful with the Corvette. I'm going to swing it this way. Remember I said I probably should be sparing with the missiles? Yeah, let's not be sparing with the missiles. Let's actually dump 2 missiles into this Guardian. Considering I'm not quite certain if I'm actually going to keep the Corvette at the end of this mission because it may end up dying. Let's deploy another countermeasure off this way just in case they decide to fire more missiles. I mean, I don't think the Guardians fire missiles that frequently, but it's probably better to be safer than it is to be sorry. You'll just have the peanut bar essentially try to parallel this Guardian and move the frigates out this way. Have frigates, freighters out this way. And have the swordfish try to target, well, I'll have the jam try to target this krill. Whereas the honey, if I can click on it, I'll just split the honey off from the jam and have it fly this way. Hopefully keep this krill in its sights. Alright, and something tells me a missile may have hit somewhere. So I may have hit my own battlecruiser with my own missile because it looks like that the Guardian actually managed to get the battlecruiser between it and the missiles, and one of them may have hit the battlecruiser. Because it's now at 86% hull, although its shields are still relatively high. So, one thing I dislike about using missiles in such close proximity. But I'll have the Brownie try to do a hard turn, although this Disruptor is now dead, so that's always a good thing. One less enemy on the field. Peanut Bar will try to keep this Disruptor in its sights, or at the very least a Disruptor in its sights. The jam looks like it's flying off to God knows where, so if I can select it, there we go. I'll have it peel back this way. And as for the honey, if it keeps flying straight forward, it'll eventually just fly into that krill. So I'm going to have it angle off slightly more this way. Hopefully keep the krill in its sight, because I believe the green is the front of the vessel. A little green light right there. And I'll have the freighters angle more this way. From the top, just to reinforce every other shield. Kind of looks like it's about to fly into this Guardian battlecruiser. So, and then we see what happens. And the answer is quite a bit. Freighters are still flying around. The Corvette is still on fire. Probably will be for the rest of the map, assuming I don't manage to get it killed. I hope not, because I kind of like the Biscuit. It's my first flagship, even though it's now at 37% hull. It somehow lost more hull. Just re-even out the shield. Just re-even out the shields for the frigate and have it do a hard turn this way to just keep this stuff seen. I'll have the battlecruiser do a wider arcing turn here just to hopefully keep everything between, well, it between everything and the freighters. You know, I think I'll actually fire off some of the battlecruiser's missiles as well. Because it shouldn't be, looks like it shouldn't be a friendly fire concern. Let's actually put... I'm tempted just to offload all 6 missiles into this thing. But that would be a waste of missiles. Let's just go with 2 for right now. What I probably should do is actually kill this one, just simply because it's got less health. Was there a 4th Guardian around here? I see 3. A lot of krill though. But anyway, on the exit front of the peanut bar, swing this way. Shield slightly. Then I'll have the swordfish swing back in here to hopefully keep pressure on this disruptor. And then the freighters will again take a long, will basically turn away from everything.
Alright, and I didn't see what happened to the battlecruiser's missiles because I was looking more up here. This Guardian is slightly injured, and it looks like that it fired off a missile toward probably the battlecruiser, which now has weakened rear shields, so let's actually, well, max those out, just because I'm fairly certain that's a missile straight on its tail.
About to hit it. And it looks like it's about to plow into this krill, but no, the krill's actually slightly above it. So I have a frigate do a hard turn this way, just to keep it with the rest of the fleet. The corvette will turn this way to help the frigate, because at 37% hull, it's probably best if it doesn't fight the things with the big guns. Keep the bring the swordfish back around, as well as the destroyer. And I'll have the freighters swing around this way. Well, this one's left shield is almost collapsing, so we'll just try to even out the shields that way. And I have absolutely no idea how many extra krill they've managed to kill. And there's the 4th Guardian, by the way. Alright, let's continue on. And that destroyer is now dead, so that's always a plus. Not destroyer, disruptor. And it looks like that the battlecruiser just got hit with multiple missiles. The one that I figured it would have, and then this one from this Guardian by the looks of it. But since this is a escort run away from the bad guys mission to save people who need to be saved type of mission, I'm not going to chase after the enemies this time around. So let's just even out the shields for the battlecruiser. And also start getting them recharging. Head more to the rear. Have the corvette swing back around this way. Same with the destroyer. And swordfish will just make a large loop this way. If I can select them. There we go. Swing them around this way to hopefully help screen the freighters. Alright, and then we keep fighting. Alright, so it looks like the frigate is actually the target of a missile now. Which is amusing considering it's the one with the countermeasures, but I don't have any countermeasures deployed. And given the range of this missile, I'm assuming that's the control of an active missile, to where the frigate is, it won't have time to deploy more. So, it's a detriment the fact that it moves so slowly. Also, the hull of the battlecruiser is now at 66%. But its shields have yet to fill, so I'm not quite certain where the hull damage is coming from. I'll have the swordfish swing back around this way to hopefully retarget this disruptor. A lot of times I'm not really worried about the krill because they're, well, the krill. They're generally designed to fight en masse. Although I will swing the peanut bar more this way to see if it can get this near-death krill into its laser arc. A little bit more this way to keep the disruptor in its port arc. And then I'll have the freighters just keep swinging around this way. This disruptor's dead, so I don't need to worry about it. Then have the battlecruiser swing back more this way. Nice. And this disruptor took a beating so much it actually died. And then this krill was killed. This krill... There was a krill over here that was killed as well. Then the freighters go this way to basically try to beeline for the evac point. The destroyers swing back around this way to take care of these krill. And since it now seems like other than this 1 to 2, just this one krill, there are no more enemies between us and the frigate, and the freighters, I should say. So I should focus more back onto, well, the guardians and these guys over here. So I have the albatross, or the frigate, swing more back this way, as well as, well, reinforce its left shield. I mean, the thing has like a massive pile of shields. It has more power, it has more shields than the destroyer does, and the destroyer is the next ship up. Of course, the frigate's also slow, so there's that. I just mess with the shields on the battlecruiser, just yank everything around until it makes absolutely no sense, but yeah, there's that. I have the battlecruiser swing back around this way because, again, only one krill left between us and the freighter, so everything that is now a problem is back down this way. No, except for this one krill, but hopefully it dies next turn. Right, and they hit the frigate with yet another missile, and it's now down to 47% hull. So just rebalance the shields, and let's actually dump a countermeasure right on top of the frigate, because that's another missile. That might also be another missile. Of course, that could also be the missile that just hit. Swing the battlecruiser back around, through this way. I'll have the frigate move a little bit more this way, just so that way it doesn't hit the battlecruiser. This krill is now dead, so I'll have the destroyer do a hard turn this way. The corvette, which is still badly damaged, will swing wide this way. And the freighters will just make for the evac point, because that's the job. I'll have the swordfish angle slightly more this way to, well, put pressure on everything back down here. Alright, so this disruptor's near death at 3 health. So I'll swing the frigate back around this way to hopefully somebody kills it. The battlecruiser goes over here to hopefully start targeting the guardians. Of the swordfish, for once the swordfish are actually fine. Usually it's the swordfish on fire and everybody else is fine, but no. Both the corvette and now my frigate are on fire. Right, and since the destroyer is not getting there anytime soon, all power to its engines and just start steaming forward. The corvette, I think, is actually on a plane lower than the destroyer, so they shouldn't collide. But at 37% hull, I'm not about to have it wade into the dark depths of, well, everything. In case another missile I don't see gets deployed, let's deploy yet another countermeasure. Once I can find where it's going. Right on top of us again. Just to help protect the frigate. Which is good, because it took out another missile. And there's yet another missile inbound. This disruptor didn't die, it's still at 3 health, so I'll try to get the frigate to swing in to, well, kill it. Battlecruiser moves this way, just wading into, well, everything. The swordfish are about to fly past everybody, so I'll have them swing around this way to see if they can't target this guardian. Have the destroyers swing in this way to see if they can't, well, target something. And again, frigates, well, freighters, head to the evac point. Right, so that disruptor is now dead. I think that might actually be the final disruptor. I think that one died and I wasn't paying attention to it. And I don't actually see any krill, so they may all be dead as well. This guardian is also dead. And the battlecruiser's navigation is offline and its front shields are gone. So I'm guessing rather than shooting it to death, it just plowed clean into it. But it's still, that just means it's a fixed weapons platform for now. Which means that there are only 3 guardians left. And I'm not seeing any tags for krill, so I'm assuming they all died. So I'll have the swordfish swing back around this way to, well, keep pressure on the remaining guardians. The frigate will again do a hard turn. They seem to be targeting the frigate a lot with missiles, so new countermeasure right here. And I'll have the destroyer swing around this way. I won't actually pull power from its engines just yet. I'll wait until next turn to do that. I'll have the corvette... No, I'll have the corvette keep screening the freighters, so I'll have it swing this way. And then the freighters just keep moving forward. Yeah, it looks like an almost plan. Alright, so now that the battlecruiser's back up to being able to maneuver, I'll have it... I'll boost power to its engine and have it do a wide turn this way. Then I'll have the destroyer swing back here, but I'll dump the power back into its weapons and shields. Slows it down, but it's right now in the heat of combat, well, the thick of combat, so it shouldn't be an issue. Of the frigate, swing this way. Now the swordfish actually try to chase after this guardian because he's farther out, and the main ships will hopefully target this one and then this one. Whereas the corvette, again, keeps serving as a rearguard action, I should say, to protect the freighters, which are hopefully pointed at the evac point, because since there's no longer Nautilid's right on top of them, and my fleet's now between the enemy and them. I'm not paying as close attention to them as I used to. I mean, for all I know, the Guardians could be firing off missiles at them, and I probably wouldn't notice until a freighter explodes. Right. So if the battlecruiser and the destroyer keep on their same trajectories, they're just going to collide into each other. And in fact, I'm fairly certain it's about to collide into this Guardian anyway. Nope. Guardian's actually, I think, on a lower plane, so they should be fine. It's always one mission where somebody flies in. It's like every mission, somebody flies into somebody else. I mean, it is one way to kill an enemy, so I probably shouldn't complain. But I'll have the Brownie do a wide turn this way to get somebody within weapons range. I'll have the Swordfish stay on top of this Guardian, because they just seem to be piling in on this guy, and he's already at less than half health. Have the Destroyer angle this way to try to target this Guardian. And the Frigate will do a wide turn. Yeah, do a wide turn here. Corvette will turn more this way just to hopefully get between this Guardian and the freighters, which just keep heading to the evac point. Alright, and this Guardian is now dead, and I'm kind of hoping that the Guardians die before they get to the before the freighters get to the evac point, but you know, I'm weird and bloodthirsty like that, so the Corvette angles this way to again stay between the Guardian and the freighters. The freighters just keep heading in a straight line because I should have angled them to the evac point. And then the Swordfish just keep angling on this guy, which is almost near dead anyway, at 16 health left. So the remaining main bulk of my strike group just keeps on this Guardian. And hopefully he has no more missiles to fire. Alright, and this Guardian is now dead. And the freighters are almost at the evac point anyway. But now there should only be one Guardian left. So... and he's actually flying away from everything. So I'll just keep the Corvette, the frigate, the destroyer, the frigate, destroyer, and battlecruiser angled directly towards the Guardian, and just keep having them try to chase after it. With this Guardian now dead, I'll have the Swordfish, if I can select them. If I can select them. Swing back around this way to maneuver towards the final Guardian, and the same with the Corvette, because now there's nothing close to the freighters. Alright, and the freighters are practically on top of the evac point anyway. And it looks like the Guardian really isn't moving all that much, so I'll swing the battlecruiser and the destroyer slightly away from each other just to see if I can get the Guardian and the destroyer's starboard arc. Yes, starboard arc. I mean, the frigate's not catching it, and not fast enough to catch it anyway, so it's practically out of the fight, which, given the fact that it's at below half health, I'm not complaining. Same with the Corvette, it's just basically doing this turning circle thing. Right, so it's at near. So the remaining Guardian's at near death with 17% health left. Swing the swordfish back around this way. That's the destroyer. To hopefully get around to actually killing the thing. Probably should angle more to where it's going to be, so I'll have the jam swing more this way, as well as the honey. Peanut bar swings more this way. Battle cruiser swings this way. And it looks like the freighter will actually get, the first freighter, I should say, would actually get to the evac point by this point. And the Corvette's too far out of the battle to actually matter, but let's aim its trajectory towards the Guardian anyway. And it's dead. Right, so Valorant states that AK tell NavSec our secondary objective is complete. We're proceeding now to the sanctioned nav point. And then AK replies with, noted, Commander. Director Michaela has expressed her thanks in assisting the evacuation of the Aclean assets with signatory commendation. Have replies with, hopefully someone else is looking out for the other orbitals this far from the safety of the Delta marks. And then Valorant says, pass on my thanks, AK. We're on our way to the primary nav point. Right, so the Brownie got in 7 kills for its first battle. It lost 152 shields and took 84 damage to the hull, but it dealt out 551 points of damage and managed to kill, well, its greatest threat was the Guardian that it killed, as well as 6 other things. The Peanut Bar killed 4 things. It took no hull damage and lost only 38% of its, well, only 38 points of shielding, which equated about a third, and it did 496 damage. The frigate, the frigate killed 1 thing, only 1 krill. It lost 113 shields, took 95 points of hull damage, did 242 damage to the enemy, and lost 29% of its shields. Although the frigate's more for defensive purposes, so it prevented several missiles from impacting the freighter, so it's important. The Biscuit killed 4 things, all of them krill. Took 51 points of hull damage, 56 points of shields, lost 35% of his shields, but did 161 damage. The Honey killed 3 things, including at least 1 Guardian, lost 2 points of shields, took no hull, and did 175 points of damage. Usually the shield and hull damages are different between the Swordfish and the other capital vessels. Usually it's the Swordfish that take the beating and not the big guns. Whereas the Jam killed nothing. But it did 182 points of damage, so it certainly wailed on a lot of things, and only took 6 points of shield damage, losing 9% of its shields. Also, we get a war scale a defensive war scale of 10.4, so now it should be 18-ish, 19-ish. And let's proceed. Alright, so with that secondary mission out of the way, we have a transcript of signatory commendation, with transcription start. Office Director Tashiel Michaela, Archelian Ministry, AGK. Commander Dice, my express thanks for assisting the evacuation of CCGDP Station. It seems I'm forever destined to be ingratiated to one Dice or the other for their aid during trying times. Your father's presence is missed during this tense time on the boardwalk. If you have any means of contacting him, please let him know. Attached is a signatory commendation on behalf of the Archelian Ministry for your selfless service to the people and assets of Novus. Dr. Tashlik Mikila. So we saved a bunch of diseased crops. Yay. And then we can proceed on with either the GSS run or beyond the settlement line, and our war scale is now actually defensive 19. So yeah, it's straight up added to that. So same 2 missions as before, we just proceed on. And I was curious if we did this one, if the other two would be locked out, but it didn't work with the starport, so it may not be an issue here. I do kind of wonder what happened with the other campaign. The only main reason why I can't access the other campaign is because I didn't investigate the raiders. But if I investigated the raiders, then the shipyard would have been under attack. But decisions are, I guess, final in this game, and so not taking the road not traveled is kind of a moot point. So I should stop whining about it. So 2 missions next, 2 missions left, and then we proceed on. And while I'm curious to see what happens next, I'm going to have to save that until next time, because I'm going to call it here. Everybody stay safe from the plague, and have a good day.